That's cool. Well, anyway, so I was kind of debating doing these maybe like Saturday morning live streams just to kind of talk about what's up in the industry. And I made a video for like on New Year's Day saying that for 2024 I wanted to try to be a little more candid about myself because back when I first started YouTube, which was the very first time I started YouTube, actually was back in 2009, if you can believe that. I started a channel called the Nortel Guy, where I was making these training videos. I was working at IBM and I was making these training videos uh, for the sales crew I was supporting. And so I said, well, hey, these videos might be handy for other people too. So I started posting them on YouTube also, and I created a channel called the Nortel Guy. And I didn't really think a lot of it at the time. I just thought like, well, I mean, YouTube, when did YouTube come out? Like 2005, 2006, something like that. So it was still kind of a new phenomenon back then. And so I just threw them up there. And well, anyway, long story short, they got some traction. Next thing I knew, after about it was about 3 years later, YouTube sent me a letter, said, hey, do you want to be a partner? Do you get monetized? Back then there was no restrictions on hours or view counts. It was like if you had a channel and you were willing to be a partner, that was, I think, kind of all they cared about. And so I went along with that. Well, so then in 2014, I started Network Advisor. And I remember at the time that I started it, I thought to myself, this is going to be kind of silly because, the IT industry is so crowded. I'm sure there's so many more people out there smarter than me, more talented than me that are going to make videos. Well, because of that mindset, when I went to go make a video, I felt like to kind of hedge myself against potential embarrassment that I was going to leave myself out of the video for the most part and just basically just deliver the concept. And I think that's what a lot of viewers want. They want that instant, I'm looking for an answer and YouTube's my search engine and I need an answer right now. And so we went with it. And I think that's why a lot of my videos are really successful. Well, because that formula kind of worked, I never even invested myself, my personality, my life into the channel. If you watch my videos, and it's mostly just, hey, what's up, you guys? Here's a challenge, or here's a phenomenon, or here's something I want to show you. Here's the answer, or here's how you fix it, or here's how you do it, and boom. And I think that's what was really successful because that's what most people wanted. Then I started getting approached more by these companies. They call them brands or brand deals, wanting me to interact with my audience and kind of, showcase their stuff. And that's when I began to realize that I didn't really have that connection with my audience as much as I would like to. I mean, I have a lot of subscribers, and some of you are very, very I guess I'll say loyal or, very, very good about patronizing my channel, and I appreciate it. But for the most part, most of the traffic is just people just looking up the answer to something and then getting their answer and then they're gone. So anyway, so in 2024, I said, okay, well, look, I'm going to try to be a little more out there with who I am and what I do. And the reason I'm doing that is I believe that there's a segment, a group of you out there that wants to be more in the hands-on IT business and wants to know what is the life of a person who does this kind of stuff. And by the way, I actually made a course. I mean, I'm still kind of making more add-ons to it, but I published the first module where I talk about this is how I do what I do as an independent. Right now, I do it part-time, but I've done it full-time for a long time too. And it talks about very specifically, I'm sorry, I guess I'm kind of doing a commercial for my course, which, I mean, I could be honest, I got to pay bills, right? So, anyway, if you want to check out the course, I'll put a link in there. You can look. It's on Vimeo. It's hosted on Vimeo. You'll see the link in there. It's like networkadvisor.vhx.tv, and you go there, and then you can like see a preview and a trailer, and then you can click to purchase the course. But anyway, get back to my point. So I just trying to put more out there for people who want to be hands-on IT type occupations, there's there's colleges, there's tech schools. You can go to college and you can get a 4-year degree in management information systems, or you can learn to be a coder. And that's great if you want to go into management of information systems, or if you want to be a coder. But a lot of the hands-on type stuff, like installing the layer one and layer two fabric, racking switches, troubleshooting switching gear, repairing things, field work, that stuff just isn't taught in the schools. And I've had a lot of people that have come to my channel, left comments, and said things like, wow, this really helps because you just explained or showed me something that I couldn't get from my textbook, or I couldn't get from my course that I was taking. And I've always been a big believer in just let me make it simple. I think, and I feel bad sometimes for those of you who are a little more advanced. You might be kind of like, oh my God, Steve, hello, this is 101. But not everybody knows how to do these things. Something as simple as like, well, I'll tell you a good example. When you first go to my channel, there's a splash video, or the video on the splash page that says, what's the difference between a switch and a router? Now, most people have been in the IT business for like even a few months, might kind of laugh at that. But you'd be surprised how many lay people or even beginners don't know the difference. I mean, the boxes look the same. They might be both gray boxes with the word Linksys on them, and they both have RJ45s on the back, and so they look like the same thing. But there's a huge difference between a switch and a router. So my point is that I try to assume that everyone doesn't have this advanced knowledge. And then of course sometimes I do make videos that talk about things that are a little more advanced. Anyway, so I just am just kind of re-emphasizing that I'm putting myself out there, letting you know that this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to create an environment that fosters new talent into the business, and especially into the business around doing IT work, like hands-on IT work. Now, back to that course, I want to make sure I didn't mislead you. That course that I was just talking about with the link with a networkadvisor.vhx.tv, that's not about IT. It's not teaching you IT. That's about the business. That's about how you get into the business of being an independent technology contractor. So don't go take that course if you're looking to become a new IT person. All right. Now maybe I'll make an IT course. I don't know. I mean, I think there's enough stuff out there, but I don't know. Maybe there is room for me to produce a course that would I mean, I guess I could kind of teach IT and telecom one-on-one, I'm sorry, 101. I could say, well, here's a cable and here's a color code and here's a jack and here's how you terminate it and here's how you test it. I mean, I think that's the entry point for a lot of people. I'll give you my backstory. So I was going to college back in the 90s, and my father had a telecommunications company, and it was an independent telecommunications company that kind of just did whatever needed to be done: install phone systems, run network cabling, repairs, programming, mostly of either mostly PBXs. Switches weren't that programmable back in the 90s. They were mostly hubs. And so while I was going to college, I needed cash, as all college students do. So I just started working part-time for my father, stringing cable. It was yucky work. And I mean, you get better at it. It's not as bad, but and then I kind of slowly started to learn to do some PBX work, and then later I went in. Long story short, I started working for a computer company, started making some decent money, stopped going to college, kind of put that on hold. Ended up getting Cisco certified, and then things really took off. I got my Cisco certification back in 1999, or it was 2000. I got it in 2000, and I started doing an awful lot of like switch work. And of course, back at that point, then switches finally were configurable and programmable, and of course, obviously routers were too. And so what that led to was this on the job training culmination. Started out pulling cable, exposure to PBXs, exposure to Ethernet cabling, and then, switching closets, and of course, Cisco certification. So there was no school where I learned these things. I did study, or I was in a curriculum track for what they call management information systems back in when I was going to college, but none of that had anything with what I was doing in the field or even what I do today. I mean, give me an example. I had a course on DBase 3. Of course, I had to master the usuals, like I had to master Windows and WordPerfect and what was the other one? Lotus 123, which is kind of like what Excel is today. And and then we also had to do some programming, and we had to learn about VSAM and what was it, VSAM and something other SAM databases. Well, none of that stuff has any bearing on what I did in the field or even what I do today. And I think I'm not slamming formal education for IT. There's nothing wrong with it. In fact, if it's something where you, especially if you want to be a manager, I highly encourage it. But the arena that I'm in, which is largely layer one, two, and three, is not really something that's taught in the schools. Maybe I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it widely advertised. If it is, maybe these tech schools, like what are some of those tech schools like DeVry and is that even still around? Maybe they teach it, but otherwise, I would say for anybody who wants to kind of get into the layer one, two, and three. If you don't know what that means, layer one, two, and three, I'm talking about the OSI model. Layers one, two, and three. Layer one being the physical medium, layer two being the MAC level signaling, and layer three being the switching and routing based on IPs. And to get into that arena, a lot of it's just OJT, on the job training. That's what OJT means. And you could simply just learn a handful of things and then go on and and simply just go do grunt work for a while. And then as you get exposure, there's always going to be that opportunity where it's like, oh, hey, well, since we're here and we need somebody to rack the switches, and Steve, you're kind of new, so here, why don't you rack the switches for me? So I got little comments coming in here. Exactly. Yeah, it is like the 80-20 rule. I'm not guessing what you mean by that is that 80% you'll learn in the field and maybe 20% you'll bring with you from schooling. So um the exposure, at least that's what worked for me, is I didn't need to go to school to learn the craft. I just simply learned it because I happened to be around it, started off doing grunt work. And for most entry level IT people, grunt work is usually some kind of installation, because there's not a lot of discretion that you need to use. You're mostly doing mindless tasks like pulling cable or maybe setting up PCs, maybe rack and stack. I would argue whether that's beginner stuff or not, because for one thing, that stuff tends to be very expensive and kind of sensitive. So I don't know if I'd let a newbie start racking and stacking some really expensive, pieces of equipment like switches and servers. Uh, but anyway, my point on is it's just kind of a scaffolding. It just goes on over time. You start out here, you pull some cable, then you learn to terminate some jacks, then you learn to terminate the backboard, and then you maybe allowed to rack some switches, and then you start doing cross connects, and maybe you're there for the day of go live where you're cross connecting new PCs into the network, and then maybe while you're there, there's some troubleshooting that goes on, so you kind of learn some of that through exposure. So and oh, working on your NSC4. Ooh, I was doing that too. And then I kind of got sidetracked on something, but that's good. Did you know? I don't know if you knew, changing topics real quick. There's a lot of free things out there that have some halfway decent certification tracks. Speaking of the NSE4, IBM IBM Skills for All, I think. You can Google it. It's like IBM Skills for All, or Skills for All, or something like that. But I remember I was working on this a few months ago and I kind of got sidetracked with some occupational stuff. But they had an NSE track on there for free where you could go all the way up to 4. I don't know if you wanted to go to NSE 5 and 6 if it was free. But NSE 4 would would at least get you your foot in the door if you're wanting to take that infosec track, that cybersecurity track. If you're not familiar with that NSE thing, that's Fortinet. Yeah, Fortinet. Fortinet is it has these NSE 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 3 are easy to get. It's mostly just sitting there watching the videos and just answering the questions at the end, and then you get a little certification badge. And then the NSE 4 is harder though because it's more hands-on. You have to do some lab work. So anyway, but I'm glad you brought that up. That was good. So who is that? Is that Robert? Sorry, I don't see my screen very well. So anyway, thanks, Robert. Thanks for contributing. Anyway, hey, listen, the whole reason I started this was just to test this out. So this is the first time I've ever tried doing a live stream through Zoom. I haven't done a lot of live streams before. I just kind of wanted to see how this was going to work out. So I'm kind of debating maybe setting up like an every Saturday thing. We'll see. I don't know. Um, maybe I could try it. I think it will work with my schedule for the most part. Saturday mornings tend to be kind of quiet around my household. I got a couple of kids and I'm married and the kids are usually up at the crack of dawn, but um but I was thinking maybe we could kind of, I could pick out, 3 or 4 topics around the industry and we could visit them on Saturday mornings. And I think it's kind of a nice sweet spot, maybe not. So I'm Eastern, I'm on the seaboard, I'm in Florida. And I was thinking maybe we could do like a 9 o'clock Florida time, which would be, 8 in the central and 7 in the mountain. I don't know if people in California would get up at 6 to watch a live stream, but hey, you never know. So anyway, hey, I appreciate you guys stopping by, saying hi and commenting in the comment box. I'm going to wrap it up. And then what I'll do is I might edit this and save some portion of it so that other people can kind of come and get to know me. And then maybe we'll do this again next Saturday, and I'll pick out some topics that would around the industry, especially some current events. I'm a little bit concerned about some of the things I'm seeing in the industry around current events. I'm a little nervous about some of the things that are going on in the cybersecurity space, combined with some things that are going on in the artificial intelligence space. So there's lots to talk about there. Anyway. All right. Well, hey, thanks for the feedback. And I'm going to see if I know how to shut this thing off. I don't know if it's a matter of stopping the Zoom meeting and that'll stop the live stream. So I don't know what you guys will see next. But thanks for stopping by and we'll see you next time. Thanks.